Hello everyone and welcome to the World Class Standard podcast. Today we're going to be doing a season preview on where we think each teams will finish and what are their chances for this season in the 2023-24 season. So we're going to be reviewing the ins and outs, who's done the best transfers and who's going to be in the top four and who's going to be fighting relegation. So first up we're going to look at Arsenal. So Arsenal's main transfers as of the 30th of July. Kai Havertz, 65 million from Chelsea. Declan Rice, 105 million from West Ham. Shurian Timber, 38 million from Ajax. And significant outgoings, Granit Xhaka to Bayer Leverkusen. So Matt, do you want to go first? How do you think Arsenal will fare this season?
Well, yeah, they brought in some strong signings there. As we all know, Declan Rice is probably going to be a very good player, I think, in that midfield position. I think they're going to do pretty well, but I think they're going to finish one place below what they did last year. I think they're going to finish third. That's my prediction for Arsenal.
Okay, and our resident Arsenal fan, Steve, how do you think the mighty Gooners are going to do this season? Will they improve on their second place finish?
So, I think Arsenal have strengthened. I don't think they've strengthened the right player in striker position. I think we need a goal scorer. Havertz isn't a natural finisher for me, so I think that's still going to be an issue. We're still going to be reliant on goals from many positions, which was fine last season. But I've got us down to finish in the same position. But I don't see us having as good a season as we did this one. I think the points difference will be slightly bigger.
Yeah, I think Arsenal do really well again this season. Like you say, I think they're one or two signings off doing a sustained push for the Premier League title. They've been linked with Brentford's David Raya, and I think I agree with you with the striker position. I think if Jesus gets injured, they'll be struggling a bit. The other striker I think they got backup is Eddie Nketiah. Is that right? So yeah. I don't think he's quite Premier League winning material. I don't think he'll score you 20 goals a season. And I don't think that Man City has significantly been weakened enough. Although I do think they are a little bit weaker after losing Mahrez. And at this moment in time as well, they haven't really strengthened either. But we'll move on to Manchester City coming up. But I think Arsenal, for me, they'll finish third this season. Okay, so moving on then. So next up, Aston Villa. Some impressive transfer business done by the ex-Arsenal boss, Unai. Pau Torres from Villarreal. Moussa Diaby from Bayer Leverkusen. Rico Richards from West Brom. I'm not sure who he is, but Yuri Tielemans from Leicester. 3 quality additions to the side. And they haven't lost anyone really significant. So, Aston Villa. Matthew, what do you think about Aston Villa's chances this season?
Yeah, another good midfield signing. Tielemans, he's going to be, if he can play to his potential, that's a great signing. Ollie Watkins still there up front, still a great striker in my eyes, and Unai Emery somehow pulls out the bag. So I think they're going to finish 7th or 8th. They'll finish quite high up, maybe push for a European place. But I think they're going to finish. Let's call it 8th.
8th, yeah. Steve, where do you think Aston Villa will finish this season?
Yeah, I think Villa are going to have a great season. Unai Emery have turned them around. He joined them last season. So I've got them finishing 5th. I think they're going to be, I wouldn't even say a surprise package. I think he's strengthened quite well. Feels like quite a young, certainly not an old squad at Villa. He's a great manager. So Ollie Watkins for me is very similar to Harry Kane in terms of the way he plays. And 5th for me, and will be a strong team for any side to.
Yeah, I agree. They'll be challenging for those Europa League places. Some good business by Unai Emery. Strengthened very well. The strength and depth for me is really the question. I think you've got a good centre-back pairing there in Pau Torres and I think it's Diego Costa, the centre-back, Brazilian centre-back they have. Those two together will be quite formidable. You've got Emi Martinez, Matty Cash at right back. I think they've got a decent left back. They've strengthened the midfield. They've got some goal scorers in the side as well. So if they can get more play in, they've got a real good chance of finishing high up the table and could be the dark horse for maybe sneaking into a Champions League place. But yeah, I think probably going to finish top 6 this season, and should be a good outing for Villa fans. Okay, so next up is Bournemouth. So quite a few decent signings, I think, for Bournemouth. They've got Roman. Maybe I'll butcher some of these pronunciations, but Roman Favre from Lyon, Justin Kluivert, Hamid Traore, Milos Kerkez, and Inot Radu from Inter Milan on loan. And significant outgoings. They haven't lost anyone, but I don't think any of the top sides were really looking at any of the players. But just going on some of those incomings seems pretty decent. Matt, how do you think Bournemouth will do this season?
Well, it looked down and out towards the end of the season.
New
So
manager?
last campaign, I think they're making a habit of surviving. Not too familiar with their signings, to be honest, but I think they've got sort of, an escaped artists mentality there. So I think they'll finish just outside the relegation zone. I think they'll finish 17th.
Yeah, 17th. How about you, Steve? How do you think they'll do?
I've got them to struggle this season. I think they were quite. I don't want to say lucky, but I think there was just other teams around them that were even worse, to be honest. Yeah, I've got them finishing second to last, going down this season. I
Oh
just
well.
don't feel they've got a strong team. A lot of average players, probably quite a few championship standard players as well. So yeah, struggle for me.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't think they'll go down, but I think they'll be involved in the relegation battle. Romain Favre, I think his name is pronounced, signed from Lyon. He's a good midfield player. You've got Justin Kluivert from Roma. He's a good player off the wing. I don't know anything about the other 3 players, but just from those 2, they seem like decent sign-ins. The question mark for me will be the manager. I think he's. I'm not sure who the new manager is, but I know they got rid of Gary O'Neill. So and he did a fairly decent job for them. He kept them up where Scott Parker was struggling with the same side. So I think he was unlucky to lose his job there. So I think they'll finish around the 15th position. The manager's called Andoni Iraola. But not much people know about him. But he was the youngest permanent manager in the Spanish top flight last year. So yeah, it seems to be a bit of an unknown quantity. So depending on how they bed in, it could be a tricky season for the Cherries. Okay then, so moving on to Brentford. Incoming, we've got Nathan Collins from Wolves, Romeo Beckham from Inter Miami, and then a couple other players which don't really stand out to me, and losing a couple of players. Brentford then, Matt, how do you rate Brentford's chances?
They'll probably have a similar campaign to last year. They've got a decent squad, decent manager. I think last year they finished 9th. So I think they'll finish around about the same. 12th position I've put them in.
Yeah, they finished 9th last season with 59 points, only 2 points off Aston Villa in 7th in the Europa Conference League. So they had a decent outing last campaign for Brentford. Steve, how do you think they will get on this season?
Yeah, I think Brentford are a very stable club, stable manager, stable team. Not many changes there you've gone through. Be interested to see Romeo Beckham play, see how he does. Whether that'll bring a bit of the Beckham profile with it, I would imagine it will. So I've got them down as mid-table as 14th position. Ivan Toney will bang in goals again, I think. Great
Well,
player.
the problem with Ivan Toney is he's going to be banned up until January, and he's in the last 12 months of his contract, so he could be looking to move on. They haven't
Yeah,
replaced a striker as of yet, so that could be an issue. Ivan Toney had one of
yeah,
his best seasons last season, and also the goalkeeper, as we mentioned earlier, has been linked with Arsenal. That could yet materialise, so there could be some more wheeling and dealing before the window slams shut.
yeah. They're two best players, probably on paper, and I still think an Ivan Toney from January will be enough to have that mid-table season. So yeah, 14th position for me. I've got them.
Yeah, I think Brentford will struggle to replicate last season's top 10 finish. For me, I'm going to have them lower mid-table, around the 14th position. Lots of sides below them have strengthened significantly, so I think they could struggle to replicate last season's form. However, I don't think they'll be in any trouble of going down. Okay, next up then we got Brighton. So incoming from Brighton, Bart Verbruggen from Anderlecht, Mohamed Diadou from Borussia Dortmund, Igor Julio from Fiorentina, João Pedro from Watford, James Milner in from Liverpool, solid performer, and then out, obviously the biggest outgoing, Alexis McAllister to Liverpool, and also some of their other players are being eyed up by Chelsea. They had a really good season last year, finishing 6th, so they've secured Europa League football for I believe is the first time. How do you rate their chances, Matt, next season with the addition of the European load?
Yeah, that might fill him out a bit in the Premier League games, as it does with we've seen that many times with many squads over the years. So I think that might be not a bridge too far, but something they'll have to juggle. They've got a great chair down there. They're a brilliant club from where they've climbed from. They seem progressive club. They've got a wonderful young striker, playing good football, good midfielders. Yeah, I think they're going to finish slap bang in the middle, 10th.
Okay, how about you, Steve?
Funny enough, I've got him in the same position. They got Danny Welbeck. So
The same position
Obviously.
as last year, or the same position as Matt?
same position as Matt, so 10th. Yeah, again, stable club. No massive wholesale changes. I think the thing for me with teams coming into the Premier League or trying to stay in the Premier League, I still think Brighton are in that, even though they got into Europe, are still in that kind of cementing that Premier League status. It will impact them, the extra games, for sure, depending on how far they go. McAllister's a massive loss. João Pedro did have a great season for Watford in the last season. So I'd be interested to see how he slots into not necessarily the same position, but similar area of the park. So yeah, mid-table team. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think Brighton will probably struggle with the additional loads, although I've been really impressed with their manager coming in. He plays a really good style of football. The recruitment policy they have there, even before the manager come in, seems to have done wonders and even improving on Graham Potter's previous methods. I think he's taken them up to another level. So for Brighton, it's going to be tricky again because you had a perfect storm last season where you had the likes of Chelsea finishing 12th, Tottenham finished 8th. There's a couple of sides in there that traditionally are bigger clubs than Brighton that underperformed last season, and I think you'll see a return to form because the blip only usually ever lasts a season at the most. So for me, yeah, I think they're still a really good side though, so I'd imagine them making up the top 10. Where to in the top 10, I'm not too sure, but let's just say 9th. To give a random number. I'm probably going to repeat some of the numbers because I'm not keeping track. So yeah, I think Brighton can expect a top 10 finish and a decent Europa League run. So moving on then from Brighton, we got the first of the promoted clubs. So Burnley, Vincent Kompany came into Burnley, a side dejected and void of confidence, got promoted from the Championship. First time of asking, played a really attractive style of football, and he's come in again and strengthened. Looking at the sign-ins, so I'll just go through it. So James Trafford is the marquee sign-in from Man City for 19 million. And then you got Zeki Amundi, Jordan Bayer, Luko Kolishko, Michael Obafemi from Swansea, Dara O'Shea from West Brom, and then there's a few other ones. Nathan Redmond, he performed well recently for Southampton. He's come in from Besiktas. And outgoings, a couple of decent players there, but none that were kind of going to be big losses. Burnley then, Matt, how do you think Burnley are going to do this season? Have they got enough to stay in the division?
Yeah, I think Vincent Kompany, he's the type of manager or type of person. Doesn't matter who he's got at his disposal, at his dispense. He's going to, make them work hard, try and score some good goals, play attacking. I think they're going to do fine. I think they're going to finish 14th.
Wow. So should be comfortably safe then. Steve, how do you rate Burnley's chances? Did you think they're going to be as comfortable as Matt suggests?
Not for me, but I don't think they will. I don't think they'll do as well as what people might think with the manager. And then that's a huge signing, that Man City youngster, I assume. Um, I'd imagine company saw him when he was at City, possibly as an even younger player. So there's clearly some inside knowledge there. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Nathan Redmond's a great signing. They'll go into the season full of confidence, blitz through the championship. But I just feel company's fresh into the game, isn't he, as manager? The Premier League is another level again, and I think it's going to be a challenge. I've got them staying safe, but only just in the spot above the bottom three, actually.
Yeah, so just for context, James Trafford is a up and coming goalkeeper. I haven't really seen him play much, but £20 million for a goalkeeper, there must be some hype around him. So yeah, I think for me, they will be involved in the relegation battle. I think it's going to be a bit of a slog. They play a type of football where they create a lot of chances. So I do think they're going to be okay, but I do think they'll be on the end of some drummings as well. So because of the way they kind of, if they stick to that kind of expansive football, they're going to leave themselves open to some of the better, more clinical attacking displays. I think when Manchester City played them in the cup, they hammered them a good 4 or 5-0, but that can happen to anyone because it's Manchester City. So yeah, I think they'll be okay. I would say 16th finish, and they'll probably survive because there's not enough. There's a few teams who I think are worse than Burnley. That would be my opinion. So I'm going to go for a 16th place finish. Okay, so next up then we got Chelsea. Difficult one to call this. Big changes. So they've brought in Nicholas Jackson from Villarreal, Christopher Nkunku from Red Bull Leipzig, marquee signing I would say out of the people they brought in. Kendry Paez, Angelo Gabriel from Santos, and there's a few others in there. Diego Moreira from Benfica as well. Outgoings, lots of outgoings. So I think it is worth noting some of them. Some big players they've lost. So Kai Havertz gone to Arsenal, as we mentioned. Mateo Kovacic to Manchester City. Ruben Loftus-Cheek to AC Milan. Mason Mount to Manchester United. Pulisic to AC Milan. Ethan Ampadu to Leeds. Koulibaly to Al Hilal. Mendy to Al Hilal. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to Marseille. Cesar Azpilicueta is gone. N'Golo Kante is gone. And then a bunch of their reserve players that they usually sent out on loan. So massive. Chelsea are known for stockpiling players, but there seems to be a good. That looks about 20 players that they've got rid of. And midfield for me seems to be an issue. They don't look like they're fully stocked in midfield or in defence. And I think the goalkeeper position is still questionable. Who's going to be the number one? So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting end to the transfer window. But with Pochettino coming in for Chelsea, I think they've got a real good chance of getting organised and structured. So for you, Matt, how do you think Chelsea are going to do this season? Last season they finished 12th. Do you see them improving on that?
Yeah, it obviously gone stale there, Chelsea. Too many players trying to play on one football pitch. It's never going to work. So he's obviously streamlined the squad. The boy from Leipzig is going to be a good signing. And they've kept Gallagher from Crystal Palace. They've brought him back, not going to loan him out again. So I think he'll be starting in their midfield. I think they're going to be a surprise package. I think they're going to finish quite high at the table. I think I'm going to put them in fourth place.
Oh wow, that is a bit of a
That's not.
surprise.
Mm.
I
Steve, how?
think with Pochettino, he knows what he's doing. He's been there. I think Tottenham was silly to let him go. If they give him some more money to buy better players in the long term, he could have taken them. Well, who knows? But I think with Chelsea, he'll have the finances. So I think he's going to start off with a bang and put him fourth.
Okay, Steve, how's your rate Chelsea's chances?
So I'm going to say it, but I shouldn't say it. But I would have said it the same last season the season before, even with Thomas Tuchel. But the Pochettino appointment feels like a long-term appointment for the club. Chelsea always feel quite a short-term sort of planning type club for me. I don't know why. They just do. They've had a massive flash summer sale, haven't they? I'd expect them to do more business bringing in players before the transfer window closes. Squad depth must be a slight weak point. Although, as Matt says rightly, they seem to just hoard players. And Kunku, I think, could be a real coup for them this season. I think he could bang some goals in. So I haven't got them doing as well as Matt, but I have got them doing much better than last season. So they're in seventh for me. So working their way back up.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I think there will, like you say, there'll be more additions to the Chelsea squad coming up to this season. And I see them doing a lot better as well. I don't think they'll quite finish in the Champions League places because, based on their current squad, I don't think it's quite top four material yet. But with the prospect of not having to play in any European competition, that will really help them. Just having Saturday to Saturday preparations and those midweek games, they'll be free to relax. I think that really helped. I think who was it that won the league that one year where they didn't have any Europeans, or it might have been challenging. I don't remember the specific team, but yeah, it can really help your progress not having those midweek commitments. I think it was Liverpool actually under Brendan Rodgers. I don't think they had any European at that time where they almost won it. So I think Chelsea will finish. Yeah, I think Chelsea will finish fifth this season. That's going to be my prediction for them. Don't quite have the players at the moment to challenge the top four, which I think will be particularly strong this year. Okay, so next up then we have Crystal Palace. Only one signing so far, Jefferson Lerman in from Bournemouth, and lots of outgoings, but most significantly Wilfried Zaha on a free transfer to Galatasaray. How do you rate Crystal Palace's chances, Matt?
Well, the best signing they've done for the last couple of seasons in a row is Hodgson. So he'll keep them. He'll keep them there. Yeah, 15th. They'll stay up. They always do.
Yeah.
Well, in recent memory, anyway. So yeah, I'll put them 15th.
Yeah. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, Palace just feel like a well-drilled team now with Hodgson. Some great young players as well. Eze Olise, I know was rumoured. Teams may be interested in him, I think. I'm not sure if he'll end up going anywhere, but yeah, Palace will be fine. I've got them in ninth position, and yeah, just a well-run club, I think, generally speaking.
Okay. I got a total different view. I think they're going to struggle this season. We've got the talisman Zaha. Hodgson, yes, he came in and got him over the line. To me, it's a bit short-term planning. Not sure how old Hodgson is now. Is he like 73, something like that? He's got to be knocking on those type numbers. Yeah, for me, they're going to struggle. But still think there's weaker sides that will go down in place of them. So I'll put them in for the 16th. I don't know if I put anyone else in for 16th there, but let's go 16th for Crystal Palace. Okay, next up, Everton. They had a really bad season again last year, finished 17th. Only just stayed up by 2 points. Leicester and Leeds going down. Incomings for Everton. Ashley Young on a free transfer from Aston Villa, and Arnat Danjuma from Villarreal on loan. Again, another club that's kind of released quite a lot of players. They seem to be a bit of a club in crisis at the minute. How do you see Everton performing this season, Matt?
Yeah, they'll do better than last season. They got away with the skin of their teeth in the last couple of fixtures. Yeah, I think they'll climb up to 13th position. Yeah, they'll have the stadium's underway. They're going to be there for another good couple of years. Everton, a growing club, so they're going to be fine. Ashley Young could change his name to Peter Pan because he is forever young. That's all young he is. So
Young
yeah,
by
good for
name,
him.
young by nature.
Exactly. So yeah, 13th. Everton have gone 13th.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I can't see them doing as bad as they did last season. I think their issue is just up front. They just Dominic Calvert-Lewin maybe 3, 4 seasons ago, perhaps maybe not that long, did really well, didn't he? But kind of scoring goals at the end of the day, and I think they just haven't had that since.
I think
So if they can keep him fit, he'll bang the goals in. I do rate him as a player, and the squad is good. It's a good squad. So I agree with Matt. I think they'll be fine. They should be fine. I've got them finishing in 13th as well. Funny enough.
yeah, I think he's got more handbags than goals lately. But yeah, for me, Everton, they're going down this season. This is the season their luck finally runs out. They're going to finish 18th.
Liverpool coming
Who
through.
do you support?
I don't support anyone. I'm just a football fan. But yeah, Everton this season they're going down. Their luck's gonna finally run out. Poorly run club. And yeah, I just don't think they've got the firepower, and I don't think they've got the defense to keep them in the league anymore. So yeah, Everton to go down for me. Okay, so next up, Fulham. Incomings, Raul Jimenez from Wolves, for only 5.5 million. I thought that seems like a really good steal there. It was only a few seasons ago he was banging lots of goals in for Wolves before his head injury. And then Calvin Bassey from Ajax, outgoing, another side that's kind of trimming the fat after being promoted recently, and a lot of their championship players have been released. Fulham then finished 10th last season. Bit of a surprise from promotion. How would you see him performing next season, Matt?
Yeah, similar position, 11th. They're another, we'll say like Palace, a decent run, London club who, are either in the Premier League or on the outskirts, but I think they're going through a good run at the moment. Jimenez is a steal. He's not banging in the goals like he was, you said before his head injury. But him, Mitrovic, a few other good players.
Mitrovic may be on his way to the Saudi Arabian League. Not confirmed yet, I don't think, but there is talks of him potentially, almost a done deal of him going.
Well, if they replace him with Jimenez, I can still see them finishing 11th place. Hopefully he doesn't, because I think he's a good addition for the Premier League. Brings something different, powerful striker, good goals. If he stays, it'll be a good partnership, in fact. So, yeah, I've got him to finish 11th.
Okay, Steve?
Matt, we must have been sitting next to each other, copying each other in the exam here.
Been copying each other's homework.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, finishing 11th as well. Fulham just feel like a club that just stay in the league quite comfortably. Well, maybe not comfortably, but they got some very good players. As Matt says, I hope Mitrovic stays. He's still quite young, that guy. He feels like he's been around forever, but I think he's 27 maybe. Paulinho was great for them last season. So to the goalkeeper, comes from a track record from a great club too. So I think 11th Fulham should be fine. Jimenez a steal, getting on a little bit, similar to Mitrovic. So you maybe would assume they're expecting him to move on, but I think Jimenez, as Matt says, will still do enough for them.
Yeah. Personally, I think their mid-table or top 10 finish was primarily attributed to Mitrovic. So if he does go, I see them suffering from second season syndrome. I would imagine them being down there fighting the not so much relegation, but they're going to be around 13th, 14th position for me. So I'll stick them in at 13th, just to put my eggs in one basket. Okay, so next up then is Liverpool. So incomings for Liverpool, Alexis McAllister from Brighton, as we talked about, and Dominic Sazbalai, is that how you say it, from Leipzig. Outgoings then, lots of outgoings to Liverpool. I think notable ones: Jordan Henderson, Bobby Firmino, Naby Keita, James Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and a couple of their reserve players have gone out as well. So Liverpool then, Matt, how do you think Liverpool are going to do this season?
Well, they revved up the engine from say midway through the season to the end last year. They were unlucky not to finish in. Well, not unlucky, but they came close to finishing the top four. I think they've found their gear again, and I do think they're going to have an outstanding season this time around. I think the boys are back, and I think they're going to finish second.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's going to for them.
Steve, how do you see the Reds doing this season?
The Reds. So yeah, I think the midfield is still question mark for me. McAllister, great signing, great price tag as well. I mean, that money for that player is great considering the season he had last year for Brighton, and the World Cup he had for Argentina as well. Um, Too much change in the midfield for me. A lot going on there. I think there's going to be some gel issues there. Early season, I think it'll take some time for that midfield to bed in again, but you don't need to say much about defence and up front. They're solid, stable, deadly up front. Salah again, I expect will score lots of goals. Diaz hopefully will stay injury free. Jota as well, consistently playing. And big big expectations still lies on the shoulders of Darwin Núñez. Not sure Klopp can trust him as much as he would want to. And he's got to pull out of the bag this season. So I do have Liverpool doing better, and I just have them scraping in the top four this season.
Yep. So my prediction for Liverpool then. Yeah, it's a tricky one really because
Champions.
it all depends on how Jurgen Klopp, how seriously he takes the Europa League for me. That will be the key to Liverpool's success. If he's planning on sending out his reserves to these far off Eastern European countries, I think they'll have a good shot at having a run at the title. Question marks, like you say, around the midfield. Are they going to have enough to gel? The depth looks a bit shallow for me as well at the minute. So it is tricky, and obviously the right back position as well. Is there going to be a right back coming in? Looks like Trent has had enough of playing right back. He's been played in the number 10 position for England. Is that something that he'd be doing at Liverpool? Not too sure. My prediction for Liverpool this season, I think they'll finish second. I agree with Matt. I don't think they've got quite the midfield to challenge for those top positions. But all depends on how far they get in Europe. But Klopp seems to go full throttle on all competitions. So for that reason, I think they're going to be stretched a bit too thin and second place finish. Okay, so next up after Liverpool is Luton Town. I think this is their first time back in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken, first time as a Premier League team. I think they got relegated the season before it got changed to the Premier League. And Championship playoff winners, punching above their weight in the Championship, but they had one of the bottom three budgets out of the entire league. Now they're in the Premier League. So that being reflected in the type of players they're bringing in. So Ryan Giles coming in from Wolves, a left back. Tita Chong from Birmingham, 4 million. Mads Anderson, Barnsley. Marvelous Nakemba from Villa. Ogbonne from Rotherham. And a lone player from Man City. And then a few players, around about 10 players released. Luton Town, Matt, how do you think they're going to get on?
Well, firstly, congratulations to Luton for getting to the Premier League for the size of club they are. That's a great achievement, and hopefully the players go out and have best season of their lives and play the best football they can. I haven't seen much of them last year, to be honest, but I know the ground is small. Maybe obviously you said only a third of biggest budget in the Championship, let alone the Premier League. So they are going to struggle, but if they play good football along with that, you can say lots of sides have gone for the season and come back down. I think that's what's going to happen there. So I think Luton will finish 19th. I don't think they'll finish quite bottom, but I've got them to finish 19th position.
Okay, Steve, how do you think Luton are going?
Yeah, these types are always tough to call. I think when you weigh up the budgets, the sorts of players they're bringing in, the team coming through the playoffs as well. Although past history that doesn't always mean much at all. On paper it looks a very difficult season for them, and I'm sure it will be. So I do have them going straight back down, but I've got a funny feeling I'm gonna live to eat my words there. I'm gonna stick with my call now, and they're gonna finish in the 18th position. So the third team there going down, scrapping at the end. I wouldn't be surprised if I eat my words with Luton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Hatters obviously promoted via the playoffs. Kenilworth Road holds about three people or whatever it is. Yeah, I think Luton are going straight back down. I doubt they'll scrape double figures in points. I think they'd be lucky to get 9 points this season. Yeah, straight back down. But I think it's just a case of being a victim of their own success. They've kind of grown a bit too quickly. It wasn't that long ago they was in the conference. Their stadium's not really ready for Premier League football. So yeah, I see them just going straight back down. Although the expedition into the Premier League, get a few quid in their back pocket to pay for the stadium, and I'm sure they'll be back up challenging in the Championship next season, or the season after. But yeah, Luton to go down, and they'll be challenging Derby's record for worst ever Premier League team for me.
Ah,
Okay, so next up then,
That Derby
Manchester.
side was terrible. I don't think anyone's getting
What's that?
anyone. No, they're going to score more than that Derby side. That Derby side was poor, to be honest. So I think they'll do
They need
better
to
than
take
others.
advantage of their stadium, so the home form will be key for them. But I just don't see it. So yeah, but maybe
we
I'll
can
be,
watch these videos back after 38 games. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think we should do one once all the transfers have been done as well, and we've had like 5 games under the belt or whatever it is. But yeah, okay. So next up, treble winners Manchester City. Incomings, not really anything to be shouting from the rooftops. Mateo Kovacic is from Chelsea. Is they're probably their star signing so far. And then losing the likes of Riyad Mahrez and Ilkay Gundogan to Barcelona. Benjamin Mendy has sneaked out the back door as well for a free transfer after signing him for £50 million. A few of the other squad players going out on loan. Matt, how do you see Manchester City performing this season after an impressive treble last year?
Yeah, well, obviously two massive stars going really, Mahrez and Gundogan. However, they got youth coming through. Pep knows what he's doing. That's an understatement. I think they're gonna not waltz it, but probably win it by 7 points, 8 points this year. I think they're going straight to the top. And you know, the youth coming through and the players he's already got there are want to impress him, especially if there's two. I know he swaps the squad anyway, but if there's two extra positions available now with those two big stars leaving. They're going to be wanted to impress Pep to get in as much as they can. And they're just going to start off on fire, and that's going to continue probably for the 38 games. So I think Pep will say, prove that you're great. See if you can replicate last season again. And if he does, he'll probably leave himself. Something else to do to win two trebles. So yeah, I think they're going to be obviously the ones to beat, and I think they're going to win it
Okay.
pretty comfortably.
Okay. Steve, how do you think Manchester City will go on?
Yeah, I think Kovacic is a really clever signing, actually, considering Gundogan has moved on. I think they're quite similar players, but actually, I reckon Kovacic may offer a little bit more than Gundogan. I just got a feeling he's going to have a blinding season. Mahrez going, no surprise. He's walking into 32, 33 old territory. I think it's the right decision for both club and player to move on there. Odin will no doubt come in and be the sort of number one pick, I would imagine, alongside Grealish, Haaland, Bernardo Silva still there, De Bruyne, Rodri. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't think they'll do as well as they did this season, which sounds a bit of a joke, really, when you consider they won the treble. They'll certainly go for the double treble, consecutive seasons. Yeah, winning it for me. I think they will. I don't think they'll win it by as many total points. I think there'll be more competition in the spots underneath them, but they'll comfortably win it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I got Manchester City winning the league again. They haven't really been weakened enough to warrant them seeing any kind of change. I think the only thing that could stop them from winning the league is any kind of like real significant injuries. They're pretty stacked across the board, so even if someone like Haaland goes down, they've got players like Alvarez to come in. He just seems like he'd be starting in any other team in the Premier League. But he's just probably got the best striker or the second best striker in world football, keeping him out. So it's a bit unlucky for him. Maybe questions whether he'll still be happy to be a bit part player for this season. But barring any like serious injuries, I see Manchester City winning the Premier League again. The cups are always tricky. Could get a bad refereeing decision, tricky run in the cup. So whether they'll do the treble again or the quadruple is hard to say. But I definitely see over the 38 game season, I don't think there's anyone better than them. Bar than kind of the only people who can stop Man City, I think, is Man City themselves. So I see him winning the title again. Okay, so next up, Manchester United. Interesting signing. So they've brought in Mason Mount, Andre Onana from Inter Milan, and Johnny Evans as a free transfer back from Leicester City. And then they've got rid of some key players. So David De Gea. So Dave the Save. He's took his golden gloves and packed him in his bag. Or I think maybe he got packed in his bag for him and he's been kicked out the door. And then some of their kind of bit part players as well have gone. And some of the people have just been hanging around, like Phil Jones and his many faces, has been just, he's been knocking around the training ground. So a nice reset for Manchester United. I'm sure there's other players come in. They've been linked with the Danish striker for around £70 million. Apparently that's close to being concluded. So yeah, if they get that one over the line, they should be a decent outfit again next season. So Matt, how do you see Manchester United doing next season?
Yeah, I think Phil Jones is still there. I think he's the janitor this season. So or the boot cleaner, one of them. But he'll be around on 50 grand a week as well.
He's come back under the different name, Bill Jones.
Phil Jones, yeah, exactly. So I think it's a tough one for Man United next season. This signings are decent, but I don't think they're going to elevate them into the top four for this season. I've got them finishing sixth. Only because I think the sides around them have strengthened. They're going to improve. I think they're just going to be a little short of the top four. So I've got them in sixth.
Okay, Steve, where Manchester United finishing?
So you've asked me a straight question. I'll give you a straight answer. I've got them finishing in third position. I think goals, a goal scorer up front was their problem last season, although they shared the goals around. They do land this Danish striker, although he's fairly young, I believe, 20. Big ask for him. Sancho needs to step his game up. I think Erik ten Hag is hoping Sancho does step his game up because he certainly was nowhere near it last season. Very reliant on Rashford, weren't they, in that sort of purple patch? And Casemiro and Bruno, of course. That kind of trio, I think, in the top end of the pitch, very reliant on them. So yeah, I have them in third position. Goalkeeper's a big one. De Gea was there for over a decade, wasn't he? So I think that's a big position to change as well, considering he was there that long. And the last player to play under Fergie, I believe, apart from Phil Jones, actually now, unless he is.
He has gone. He has been released.
So I think there's a lot of hype around Onana, but I think it's pretty big gloves, golden gloves to fill. So I think that'll be interesting, that one. And of course, Maguire will probably is rumoured to be going as well. So yeah, centre back position, the depth there. Johnny Evans, I think he's not as good as Maguire, so I think there's a bit of an issue there in defence with the depth now.
Yeah. So for me, I think is Andre Onana number one at Old Trafford, and I say that because Manchester United are a special club, and the goalkeeper position is one that comes under big scrutiny. So you have to be a big personality to take on that number one jersey for Manchester United. You think of the players that have in the past had that number one spots. Peter Schmeichel, one of the best ever. Edwin van der Sar, one of the best ever. David De Gea, he held it for a long time. He contributed to a lot of great moments for Man United, saved them countless points, but did make mistakes. And when he was making mistakes, he got heavily criticised for them So it's a big test of someone's personality, and I think someone without that kind of big personality can shrink and crumble. So it's a big test for Onana. That said, though, he's got great pedigree. I think he played for Ajax and got to semi-final of the Champions League. Played with Inter, got to the final of the Champions League. So I'm sure he's going to be, well versed in playing for big clubs. But I think playing for Manchester United as a goalkeeper is probably, bar from Real Madrid, I think you're probably the most scrutinised goalkeeper in world football. So it's going to be difficult for him. The other thing I think Manchester United lacking, you mentioned centre back. It's been a problem position for a while, but I'm not too fond on the midfield either. Casemiro, great signing, but they seem stacked full with number 10s still. So Mason Mount, to me, looks like another number 10. They've got Ericsson, they've got Bruno. Are they going to do Casemiro with a double 10? The balance seems off there, and also the depth in the defensive midfield seems a bit shallow as well. So I'm surprised they didn't go for someone like a Kovacic, who can complement both the attacking number 10s that they got and the defensive midfielders, and kind of strengthen that midfield out. It's obviously still business to be done, and also again another. Don't want to talk too much about potential signings, but putting all your kind of eggs in the basket of a 20-year-old Danish striker coming in, that's going to be another test for his character. So be interesting to see how Manchester United do. That said, I do have them finishing in the top 4. I can't remember. What did I say Arsenal was going to finish? Do you remember? Did I say
Third.
I said third? So Manchester United are 4th then, for me. Obviously they got Champions League football as well to contend with. Okay, so next up we've got Newcastle. Signings: Harvey Barnes, Sandro Tonali from AC Milan, and outgoings. Bizarrely, Alan Saint-Maximin has gone to the Saudi Arabian League. He was probably one of their talismans before last season, and since Eddie Howe's come in, he hasn't really replicated that kind of same form. I think he kind of relishes being the star man. How do you think Newcastle are going to get on this season, Matt?
Well, the signing from AC Tonali, he could prove a pivotal signing for them this season. From what I saw of him last season, well, say half a dozen to a dozen games, played brilliant every time I saw him. Tenacious, great distribution. Can be fantastic for him. I think they're not going to finish in the top 4. They're going to just finish in just outside. Going to finish in 5th. So I think they'll have a similar season. But I think the top 4, they'll put Chelsea up there. It'll be between them and Chelsea. Again, in that top 4. I've gone for Chelsea. I'll put Newcastle just outside. So Eddie Howe to replicate the season from last season. Obviously juggling the Champions League. It's going to obviously thin out the players throughout the week. But I think they're still going to do well. I think they'll finish 5th.
Yeah. Steve, how do you think they'll get on?
Yeah, I think the point Matt made there at the end of the Champions League, I think the extra stress, strain on the squad that brings will be a bit of a shock, I think, to the squad and probably the manager as well. So I think it'll be a hard one for Eddie Howe to play, actually. Great, echo Matt's words. Tonali, great signing. I'm surprised other clubs, likes of Arsenal even, were looking at him. I think the Declan Rice thing seemed to be pretty well nailed on for quite a number of months before it actually happened. But great signing there. I do have reservations over how long Wilson can bang goals in. I think he had a great season last year. I just don't see him doing it season after season. I think he's the wrong side of 30 now anyway, possibly. Although Isak looks a top draw player as well, so maybe he'll bed in even more this season after his introductory year last year. And Dan Burn at right back, solid, massive, stable. The back 4 there, if they play like they did last season, then the number of clean sheets they had, then they'll be absolutely fine. But final thought to Maximin. Yeah, surprised he left. He seemed to be sidelined a little bit on the DL, didn't he, by Eddie Howe? So maybe there was some behind the scenes stuff that was not great between manager and player relationship. So I've got them finishing in sixth, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they'll finish sixth this season. The added Champions League load, and again, there's question marks over Callum Wilson's fitness. Can he stay fit for 50 games this season? Probably not. I see him getting out the group stages of the Champions League. Probably having another decent cup run. Don't forget to get to the final of the cup last season, where Man United beat them. But yeah, I see him doing well again. But yeah, I think they'll just be spread a bit too thin, and I've got them finishing in sixth position as well. Okay, so next up, Nottingham Forest. Incomings, Anthony Elanga from Manchester United, Chris Wood from Newcastle, and then Manny Norquette from Manchester United. And then outgoings, Jesse Lingard is gone, Cafu, not the original, Andre Ayew, Sam Surridge, a host of different players that they've left. Finished 16th last season. Where they finish in this season, Matt?
Yeah, I've got them finishing bottom. I think they've got too many too many revolving doors in that stadium. You don't know who's coming and going. They got a squad that's too big. I just don't see any cohesion there. The results are just too up and down last season. I think that's going to replicate this season as well. I don't see them. Yeah, I don't see them having a good one, to be honest. I've put them dead last.
Dead last. Steve, where's Forest going to finish this season?
Yeah, I was surprised they stayed up last year. Actually, I think the the transfer policy at that club is a bit wild, isn't it? The number of players and the caliber of some of the players as well. You know, on paper, was pretty high. To be fair, just a team of lots of individuals. There's a few good players there. You know, Brennan Johnson, I like. One great player, great future ahead of him. I think if they build the team around players like that rather than the ones who are possibly taking the Premier League paychecks, then I think they'll be okay. But so I've got them down as 15th to finish. So probably a similar season really as last time.
Yeah, I don't know if I've already filled this spot, but I've got them down for 17th. So I think they'll be in the relegation mixer. I still think Steve Cooper will do a decent job. I know that's kind of 17th is kind of a backhanded compliment, but I think he was a bit handicapped last season by all those influx of signing, and this season it is quite evident that they're not going down that route with only 4 transfers in. So I think he'll probably be moving out the players that you don't want with they've got rid of like 11 odd players. And I think towards the end of the season, as they picked up some decent results, I think they beat Arsenal along the way as well. So yeah, I think they will just about stay in the Premier League. I think they'll just pick up enough points. Okay, so next up we've got Sheffield United. Anis Ben Slimani. I don't know if that's the same Slimani that played for Leicester. I don't think so. Benny Traore and Yassir Larouchi from Troy's on loan. Outgoing, there's about 11 different outgoing players. Sheffield United, where do you think they're going to finish, Matt?
Well, they just about fell over the line in the second place last year from the Championship. So it wasn't very convincing finish to the season. When I did see a few of the Championship games they were involved in, I don't think they looked well. It was towards the end of the season when obviously things come to a climax. But yeah, they were looking terrific. I think they'll make a better shot than Luton and Forest, but I still got them going down 18th place.
Okay. Steve,
So
how do you think the Blades are fair next season?
Rock bottom. I
Well,
just don't do it for me at all. Even though they've had the experience beforehand and that they did have a good season, didn't they? That first time they came up, they were comfortably top half. But I just feel they'll take the kind of momentum from the back end of last season into this season, even though they went up. And yeah, rock bottom for me. So they'll go straight back.
back from whence they came. Yeah, I've got the Blades to get blunted this season. They go in, finish 19th for me. I think Luton will probably have a worse season than them, and Everton completing the bottom 3. not enough. I haven't seen enough signings yet. Whether that's changing, we're pretty 2 weeks away from the start of the season. And like you say, they wasn't that convincing when they came up for the championship. So unless they strengthen, I think they're gonna have a tough time. Okay, so next up we got Tottenham. So incoming Dejan Kulusevski, loan made permanent from Juventus. James Maddison from Leicester. Guillem Vicario from Empoli, the goalkeeper, and Manor Solomon from Shakhtar Donetsk. Outgoings Harry Winks to Leicester, Lucas Moura, and Tom Bloxham. The mighty Spurs, how are they going to get on next season, Matt?
Yeah, Madison's a good addition to the squad. Let's see if Kane sticks around for that record. Otherwise, he's going to be at Bayern Munich next season. Whatever happens, they're going to finish seventh. They're not strong enough to challenge the top four, I don't think, this season. They've probably got enough in the locker to finish, comfortably, top half of the table. So, going to go for seventh.
Yeah. Steve, where the Spurs going to finish this year?
Yeah, I think it all kind of hinges on whether Harry Kane stays or goes. Madison's a great addition. I think that trio of Madison, Son, and Kane could be pretty handy, to be honest. Defensively, just don't think they're strong enough anymore. They're not. I think they're losing pace a little bit with that area of the pitch in terms of strengthening. So I've got them. I've got Chelsea actually driving beyond Spurs this season, and Spurs kind of slipping back into sort of the Chelsea mould. Still think if Kane stays, they'll bang in goals, but I just think at the other end is probably where their issue is going to be. So eighth, I've got them finishing.
Yeah. A tricky one, Spurs this season. Again, they're not going to be hamstrung by any European competition after finishing eighth last time out. They brought in Ange Postecoglou from Celtic. Always tricky to really get a steer on how good a Celtic manager is in that kind of two-horse race up in Glasgow. But yeah, I think again that the defense looks a bit too creaky. I think the change of bringing in a goalkeeper was needed. The back three, it'd be interesting to see whether they play a back three again because they was playing with like the wing back system. I don't think, from what I remember of seeing of Celtic last season, they don't play with that five at the back, so it's going to be a bit all change. So yeah, I have Spurs finishing seventh, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did creep into the top four. If they had a couple of new signings, particularly in defence, and especially if Harry Kane stays, that kind of axis of Kane, Son, Kulusevski, Maddison, that could be really productive. And if they manage to keep the goals out the net, they could creep into the top four. So yeah, watch this space with Spurs. I got them down as my dark horses this year. Okay, so next up then, who have we got after Tottenham? West Ham. So incoming Sean Moore from Cliftonville. I'm sure that won't be the end of their shopping. After getting the bumper 105 million out of Arsenal for Declan Rice. West Ham then, how the Hammers going to get on this season, Matt?
Well, I think the early season will be spurred on by the success from Europe last season. I think they'll start the season well. I think if they can get a good run in the belt, they might continue that. Because that's the type of manager Moyes is. He gets the bit between the teeth. He'll just keep going and going and get the best out of his squad. And I think after last season, that's what might happen this season. So I think they'll have a good run, and I think they'll just finish just behind Villa. So I had Villa 8th, the West Ham 9th. That's what I've got them.
Okay, Steve, how do you see West Ham season going?
Yeah, I like David Moyes as a manager. He's been around the block, knows what he's doing. I think we'll see how good Declan Rice really was. Now he's not in that position for West Ham and obviously moved across London to Arsenal. I think clearly they're going to do more business with that money in the bank, you'd like to think. I'd be surprised if they didn't pick up the likes of James Ward-Prowse, but that's pure speculation. I do not have any inside information. So I don't know. West Ham are always a tough one to call. They did go through a period of going up, going down, back up, bit of a yo-yo club a little bit for a few seasons. I don't see that happening with the likes of David Moyes in charge, but they do need goals and they do need that spine of the spine of the team. Rice gone, a goal scorer, and defensively too. I think the spine is just the issue for them. But I think having said that, I've got them finishing in 11th place.
Yeah. I think they can expect the similar season than last season. I don't know if I got anyone in 14th, so I'll put them in 14th again. I'd imagine they'd go deep into the Europa League, having qualified after winning the UEFA Conference League. Yeah, again, it's a tricky one. On paper, they got some good players. Jarrod Bowen sticks the ball in. Declan Rice is going to be a big loss. But they're looking to find some replacements. The problem you're going to have is every player is going to be cost 105 million now, right? Because everybody knows exactly how much cash is in their back pockets. So adds 10 or 20 million to wherever fees. I think another kind of hole that could emerge is Mikel Antonio. He's been linked with a move to Saudi Arabia again. So yeah, I think that's going to be an issue as that league develops. For mid-table Premier League clubs, some of the players getting filtered off into the Saudi Arabian league, and good luck to them because they'll be a massive payday. Do you pay for West Ham, or do you go over to Saudi Arabia and make a whole bunch of money to set your family and your grandkids up for the rest of their lives? So yeah, I think that's going to become more of an issue in the next coming seasons as that league grows. But yeah, I see West Ham struggling in the Premier League with the burden of Europa League, but probably having a nice few away trips for the fans. Okay, so we're on to our last team now. Wolves. So incoming Bukayo Traore, Matt Doherty, they've got back from Atletico, and Tom King from Northampton. Outgoings, Connor Cody has gone to Leicester. Raul Jimenez, Ruben Neves, they've lost to the Saudi Arabian League, and Nathan Collins to Brentford. How do you see Wolves getting on this season, Matt?
Yeah, well, they were struggling to score goals last season and probably the season before. So it's going to be a massive problem for them. They need a goal scorer this season. They play good football. They keep it tight. They can beat. I think they go to Old Trafford every year and win 1-0. So they know what they're doing when they, with their passing game, short passing game, take attack off football, if you want to call it. They are going to struggle. I put them quite low down. I put them just above Bournemouth, 16th place. They need to get some firepower and quickly. So Wolves in 16th.
Steve, how do you see the Wolves getting on?
Yeah, again, me and Matt are going to get the same grades here, copying each other. So I've got them down 16th again. I think they'll struggle. They'll be in the relegation dogfight. Goals is the issue, as Matt's already said. I know Jimenez didn't bang them in, but at least on paper, he felt he had potential to score goals. Ruben Neves is a massive, massive loss. But again, the spine is just being ripped out of that team a little bit, and I think that's always a worry for teams such as Wolves. Not sure what happened with Connor Cody when on loan, didn't he, to Everton? Again, I felt he was, a good player, good solid defender. Again, part of the spine. So yeah, they'll struggle for me. So 16th position and in that relegation scrap.
Yeah, I think Wolves will be in the scrap, but I think they got enough in the tank to move away from the relegation positions towards the end of the season, being kind of a seasoned Premier League team now. They have good contacts with the Portuguese players. They seem to get a lot of good contacts on there, so I'm sure they'll be bringing in some more and strengthening. Don't see them having too many issues. I think it'll be a case of there'll be enough sides worse than Wolves to keep them in the Premier League. So I'm going to go 13th position, same as last time out. Okay, so that's the end of the picks. Sorry, Matt, what was you just going to add to that?
Yeah, an overall summary of what the league is. So I think from first to sixth, obviously first I think you're going to win by a good couple of points. The same like last season between second and sixth. It was quite tough to call as the season was going on. It's going to be the same. mid-table, throw a blanket over them because that's the points average. I think the bottom 4 or 5 will again, like last season, get peeled away from the mid-table sides. I think it's been quite a similar season to last season, except maybe 1 or 2 surprises of who's going to finish in what top 4 position. But yeah, I think that the sides who've come up are going to struggle. So I think it's going to be quite a similar season as of last.
Yeah. Steve, overall thoughts for the Premier League for this upcoming season?
Yeah, the newly promoted teams, I think, will find it tough. I think there's going to be sort of 5 mini leagues within the league. I think City are going to be out on their own this season. I think for that reason, well, the reason because of that, sorry, is because I think Arsenal, United, Liverpool will be closer, competing more, taking points off teams that they didn't take points off, certainly each other and the other teams around them. Newcastle, Chelsea will be in the another kind of league with Spurs, I believe. And then you got your, as Matt says, your mid-tablers, Palace, your Brightons, your West Hams, your Fulhams in their own mid-table league, and then yeah, the rest down really is scrap for the 3 spots at the bottom.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're gonna have a bit more of a clearer divide. I think there's a noticeable difference between the top 10 sides versus the bottom 10 sides, and yeah, whilst the top 7 or 8 teams are going to be really strong, you're gonna have your kind of 3 or 4 teams just they're going to be too good for the bottom 10 sides, but not good enough to challenge the top, and then kind of 11th down is going to just be a scrap and who's got the most resilience out of the rest of them. But it should be a good season again. Looking forward to it starting and all the madness that goes on with it. And like I say, it'd be good to review our picks once the transfer window is closed, because that could significantly alter what the views may be. Some teams may be losing players or gaining players, and also it'll give us a chance to see the first 3 or 4 games just to get an idea of who's where and how people are settling in. But that are our picks, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like on the video. If you enjoy watching our videos and want to be notified of new ones, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you got a different opinion to ours, we'd like to know. Drop in the comments section below. We'll respond to it and let us know where we've gone wrong. And we'd love to hear your opinions. But that's it for this time. Have a world-class weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.